see if I can get this to work.
Could you, I'm not positive it's gonna work right, but.
Okay, looks like it's working. Sir,
Well,
can you,
this
one's
is,
just flashing
like,
This keeps
a
flashing the screen.
strobe light.
can you see the other screens?
Yeah.
I can see that fairly well, yes.
Okay.
If you can't see it, we can give you a copy of these, we're gonna have someone look at that.
I have them printed if you need them.
That's all right. I think.
Okay, that's like flashing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. May I, Judge?
Go ahead.
Sir, you were asked about the shooter and his friend in that conversation that they had. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
Okay, and then yesterday we had a discussion about that, specifically the amount of text in that conversation, the content of the conversation.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Now, from November the 30th of 2021 up until the time that the shooter was arrested I'm sorry, October the 30th of 21 to November the 30th of 21 when he was arrested, were there any responsive texts from the friend to the shooter?
No, there was not.
Okay. In that conversation, we talked about in April how the shooter expressed to that friend that he had asked his father for help.
Correct.
And you were asked about some context, and I think your answer was that there was more context to it, you just couldn't recall. So I'm going to show it to you. So we'll go through the entire exhibit. It's Exhibit 67. This is the shooter. Like I hear people talking to me and see someone in the distance. That's April 4th of 21.
Correct.
And then right after the shooter wrote, I actually asked my dad to take the doctor yesterday, but he just gave me some pills and told me to, quote, suck it up.
That's correct, yes.
Okay? And then he wrote, like, it's at the point that I'm asking to go to the doctor, and then my mom laughed when I told her.
That's correct.
Okay? The next text is April the 5th, just after midnight, but I'm having bad insomnia. RN. What does RN mean?
Right now.
If you know? Okay, right now. And paranoia. I need
Correct.
help. I was thinking I'm calling 911 so I could go to the hospital.
That's correct.
Then he wrote, but then my parents would be really pissed. That's April 5th, 21 at 12:12 in the morning.
That's correct.
I'm going to ask my parents to go to the doctor's tomorrow or Tuesday again. That's April 5th, 21 at 12:38 a.m.
Correct.
And then, but this time I'm going to tell them about the voices. April 5th, 21 at 12:38 a.m. And then the last text is like I am mentally and physically dying. That's April the 5th, 21 at 12:39 in the morning.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's in the same conversation.
Correct, yes.
Okay, is that the context you're referring to?
Yes, I do remember that now, yes. That's what I was referring to.
And in this conversation, you were saying, this is in August, between the shooter and his friend, you were asked about these videos. I'm going to play this one. This is August 20th at 12:30 in the morning. Okay, is that the noise you were referring to? The noise that it makes when you...
Yeah, the
open
metal
fire?
was slamming together and putting the magazine in and slamming it on the table.
Now you were asked about the horse barn, and I'm just going to use counsel's math here. So if that math is correct, that means 25% of all, so a quarter of the year, they were discussing meeting at the barn?
Correct.
Okay. Any indication in any of those conversations that they were taking their son with them?
No. There was not.
Now I want to ask you about Exhibit 130. And you were asking questions about November the 30th, 2021, when they were called to the school. So we talked yesterday about James when he started door dashing on November the 30th. You recall that?
Yes.
Okay. So earlier in the morning, just to get the timeline correct, we had 7:46 a.m. James Crumbley dropped his son off at Oxford High School.
That's correct.
He's back at home at 8:04 a.m.
Correct.
and then he's at the barn after that.
Correct.
Okay. And we went through that Facebook conversation between James and Jennifer Crumbley when she showed him this picture, Exhibit 1. This is Exhibit 128. And I'm going to go to the original one as well, which is 1:30. So we saw that Facebook conversation November the 30th, approximately 9:30 in the morning, when Jennifer Crumbley sent this to James Crumbley.
Correct.
Okay. So, based upon the location history and what you were able to determine, he was at the barn at that point?
That's correct.
Okay, so he had not checked in for the day and began working that day?
Correct.
Okay. So it was not until after he saw this, and that's when he signed on to DoorDash?
Correct, after the meeting.
Okay. So you were asked, did he have any reason to stop home? But I want to talk about after he saw this, if he ever stopped home at all. Okay?
Okay.
So, November 30th, 2021, at 11 a.m., that's when he first signed on to accept his first order for DoorDash. Is that right?
That is about right, yes.
Okay. And we went through some of those maps. We went through a little bit quickly yesterday. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page. When he was accepting these orders and making deliveries, it wasn't outside of Oakland County, was it?
No, it was not.
In fact, where was it?
All local and within Oxford.
Within Oxford. Okay. And he actually drove by his house at least 4 times from the point that he saw this to the point the shooting started.
That's correct.
And never once did he stop home.
No, he did not.
Now, yesterday you mentioned how you responded to the scene and you went to the mire first.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the mire that James Crumbley was at when he received the alert of the active shooting at Oxford High School.
That's correct.
Okay. And you were helping parents find their kids when you were there?
Yes.
You talked a little bit about the school buses and what you saw. How many parents were there?
Dozens of just standing around in the cold.
Were more coming when you were
Yes.
to school?
Yes, cars kept on coming.
And based upon what we know from the timeline you were able to put together with the data locations, we know that 1:10 p.m. James Crumbley got the email. We know with a certainty that he was at the Meijer parking lot at least by 1:11.
Correct.
He made phone calls in that period of time, and he didn't leave, and he left at 1:17 p.m. So he was in the parking lot where everybody else went to for at least 6 minutes, and then he went home.
Correct.
Okay. And he got home at 1:20 p.m.
Correct.
He was on the phone with his wife for a 10-minute phone call, we said.
Correct.
Okay. And it wasn't for another 14 minutes that he called 911.
Correct.
And it wasn't just parents at that Meijer parking lot. There were students there as well.
Hundreds of them, yes.
Okay. You know, there's 1,700 students at Oxford High School.
I did not know that, but it's a big school.
From what you saw there, the scene that you saw when you pulled up in that white minivan you told us about, and you saw the school buses with kids looking for parents and
Your Honor,
parents
I'm
with
going to
kids.
object. The prosecution's testifying.
I'll get to the question, Judge.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
please.
Did it seem like it was that number of students at Oxford High School? Paint us the picture of what you saw when you got there.
Again,
I would also object to relevance about what he saw when he got to the Meijer, Your Honor.
It's important because counsel made a point in her cross-examination to suggest that there's no reason for James Crumbley to go home. And I think this witness has established yesterday and today that James Crumbley was actually at the location where everybody else was going to. So it's important for the jury to understand what he was observing when he sped from Pontiac to that location.
Your Honor, I don't understand what Mr. Wagrowski observed at the Meijer is relevant to whether or not James Crumbley felt that he needed to go home. I don't know how the two are connected, Your Honor.
I'm at a loss myself. Maybe I'm missing something.
Okay. Did all the other parents you saw, did they leave or did they stay?
They stayed.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, you can step down and
Your Honor, very brief recross?
Okay.
Very brief, thank you.
All right.
I believe I only have 3 questions.
Okay.
4, can I get my exhibit back? Thank you. In April of 21, you testified about Mr. Crumbley's son telling his friend, I'm gonna ask my parents to go to the doctor, right?
Correct.
You don't know what doctor that was?
He was talking about hearing voices in the distance, stuff like that, but. I
You don't
do
know
not.
what doctor that was, is that accurate?
Correct.
In reviewing the exhibit that we have, we don't know what doctor he was asking to see.
From the word prior to that, where he's hearing voices and he feels like he's dying inside, I do not know the doctor.
You don't know. You don't know if he ever did ask.
He mentioned it in a couple different conversations that he was going to try to ask.
Going to try. You don't know if he ever did.
I do not.
One moment, please. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Judge, I just have to redirect because I have to correct something that was just said in that exhibit. Just one question on that, April.
Okay. I mean, in theory, he could be recalled, so. I'm sure he'd be happy not to, so.
Okay, so this is exhibit 67, we went through this part like I hear people talking to me. The next slide, I actually asked my dad to take to the doctor yesterday.
Correct, yes.
Okay, is that your recollection
Yes,
as well? Okay.
correct.
Thank you, Judge.
Anything further?
One question. Sure you know what it is. You don't know what doctor that was, right?
Other than the context of the information prior to that.
That's
Yeah,
asked and
he
answered,
said- Yeah,
Judge.
he asked an answer. He said he doesn't know. He said he doesn't know.
Thanks, Judge.
Okay, so I'm gonna let